Okay, so our next lesson that we're going to have is the division stamp game. It's on Wednesday's schedule, and it says use the same page of division equations to complete the first 4 equations. Okay, so this has been on our contract for a couple of weeks, but we haven't got to it. Now we're finally going to get to it. You have had a lesson on division stamp game already, so hopefully you will remember how to do it, but we're going to have a lesson again. So we're going to start with this one. It is 3,761 divided by 2. So the first thing you need to do is get out, and you remember in the stamp game box there are like little objects, and there are some green little objects in there. And so I don't have those green little objects. Most likely you don't have those green little objects, so you're going to have to use something in replacement. And what I'm going to use are just some post-it notes that are green. So I'm going to put out 1 and then I'm put out 2 because that's what we're dividing 3,761 between. So the next thing you need to get out is the actual number 3,761. So I'm going to get out 3,000. Remember how I lay them out? I'm laying them out in pairs so that way I can recognize just something additional, which is that if you have a pair, then and everybody has a pair, then it's an even number. If one person does not have a pair, then it's an odd number. So 3 is an odd number. So 700, so we need 7 hundredths. These are much harder to get out than the stamp games at school because this is paper versus the wood. 600, so 7 is an odd number. 6 tens. And 1 unit. Okay. So with everything else that when we're answering equations, we always start with our units. But division, we don't. We actually start with our thousands. So that's different. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take up our thousands. We can just pick them up in our hand. At school, we would use a bowl. But we're going to pick them up in our hand. We're going to divide them equally between the 2 people, like we call it, school. So dividing equally. Okay. I cannot divide equally. Each person can have 1, but then I have this 1,000 left. So that means that we need to take this back to the bank, and 1,000 equals 10 100ths. So I'm going to get out and move this over 10 100ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, oh dear, I did not prepare very well. We really need to record this in our notebooks because this is long division and there's not enough room on our pages here. So here's what I did. I went ahead in my notebook and I wrote my name and my date and the title. And then I glued the first 2 division problems on this first page. And then I glued the second 2 on the next page. And so I want you to do this and put these in your notebook. That way you can record and you have room to do your long division. Okay. So we have already figured out that 2, okay, I gotta tell you this, remind you. First thing you do is you divide. Then you multiply, and then you subtract. So we're gonna follow these procedures. So 2 or 3 divided by 2 was 1, right? It's 1, it's what one person gets. And we had 2, okay? Oh, okay. So the next thing we do is we multiply. So we know that 2 times 1 is 2. And then we subtract. So 3 minus 2 is 1, okay? And then remember we have to bring down this next number, and that is 7. 7 100ths, okay? So we've already gotten ready by exchanging the 1,000 that we had left over, which is this one right here. We had 1,000 left over. We got 10 ones because 1,000 equals 10 ones. And then we already have 7, so we actually have 17 100ths to divide between these the two people that we have over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that part. We're gonna might as well just get them all in our hand. Get them ready. Get all those 10 and these 7 to make 17 100ths, and you can maybe make a prediction whether you think this is going to divide equally or not, because we have 17, which is an odd number, and we're trying to divide it between 2, which is an even number. So remember that you have to make sure that you divide evenly. I'm going to end up running out of room. I feel like I did something wrong. Okay, so then we have 1 left that doesn't go evenly. All right. So let's go to take this back. 100 equals 10 ones. So we're going to put the 100 back in the bank, and we're going to get out 10 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so then I'm going to put out 10 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's good that I recounted because this got stuck to one of them and I had too many. Okay, you always have to check your work. So let's go back to recording now that we've done our exchanging. Okay, so the answer, the first thing we're doing is dividing. The answer is what one person gets. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 17 divided by 2 is 8. Now we had a remainder though, but we'll figure that out right now. So 2, and then the next thing, so you do division, now you have to multiplication. So 2 times 8 is 16. And you should know your multiplication tables, but if you don't, then you can count how many you have total here. Okay, and my 6 is backwards. It's hard to write upside down sometimes. Our next step is subtraction, so we're going to subtract. And we have 1 left, and that was the one that I put back in the bank, and I got out 10 tens for. So the next thing you do is you bring down the next unit plus next place value, and that's 6. So we have 16. So if you can see that we have 16 tens. 16 tens, okay? So here we go. We're going to pick them up, and you can predict whether you think this is going to divide equally. Okay, so let's hope there's enough space. I don't think I could have moved this up higher, but I'm not going to. I'll just see what happens. Try to squeeze them in. 1 to each person, so we're dividing them equally. Okay, so if you predicted that it would divide equally, you were right. It does divide equally. So the next step is to record. So we're going to go back and do what we just did. We just divided. So the first thing is that we divide. So 16, really, it's not really 6, it's 16 divided by 2 is what one person gets. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 8. Okay. The next thing you do is you multiply. So 6 times 2 is 12.
8 times 2.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. 8 times 2 is 16. I have my helper here. Sometimes I make mistakes, and I just did make a mistake, so she helped me. Okay. So 8 times 2 is 16. And then the last thing you do is you subtract, and we have 0 left. Okay. Then we're going to bring out our ones. Okay. We have 1, 1. I think we could all predict this is not going to divide equally. So this is the tricky part, which we have not done before. 1 divided by 2 is actually 0. It goes in not at all. And then we have this one left over. We have to recognize that we have it left over. So we're just going to put a little R right here and a 1. That means that we have a remainder of 1. I can make my 1 bigger. And then that's it. Okay, I'm not going to do another equation. If you need to review this equation, rewind and watch the same one again, or ask your parents for help, or ask your parents to sign up for an additional help from me through Sign Up Genius, and then we can do a Google Meets.